What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are going to continue our coverage over the Destiny of X era of X-Men comics, but we do pick up with Marauders #1 all over again. Yes, you heard that right, Marauders #1. See, when Marvel launched Dawn of X, they gave us a bunch of titles, and one of those titles was Marauders, and Marauders was actually pretty popular to X-Men fans up to a certain point where fans began to walk away. And so, of course, you have Marvel cancel the book and relaunch it with a new creative team. And of course, you had Orlando take over the title with a brand new run. Now, here's the thing. This is also a brand new Marauders team because with Marauders Annual #1, we saw Kitty Pryde say, you know what? It's time for the rise of a new team to continue on our mission to save mutants who are technically right now being held against their will by people who do not want to let them go and join our nation. And so she made a new team, but also kind of say, we are going to go on a new kind of adventure. And this time, the Marauders actually go to space. Yes, you heard that right. The Marauders go to space. And also, they team up with a bad guy. One particular bad guy that is very bad. You're kind of wondering, where in the world is this story actually going to? And so getting into today's video, we actually do pick up right now with the Marauders going to Wyoming. Now, let me say real quick, I do not like the opening pages of this book. And the reason why, because we honestly do not see the new team doing much to show us what they're actually capable of actually doing. Because we do jump over to Wyoming, and right now we kind of find out that you have a certain mutant technically going crazy at the moment. And so, of course, you do have the military coming in and want to capture this mutant. Now, the mutant that's right now going crazy is a character known as Fever Pitch. Now, Fever Pitch been around for a good while in X-Men comics. He's just one of those minor characters that just comes and goes here and there throughout X-Men comics, and honestly, he's very minor. Now, with that being said, right now his powers are going crazy, where he does release an intense amount of heat. Now, with that being said, you do have the Marauders actually appear, and when they do appear, of course, this is them right now still continuing their mission to help free mutants across the world, or just help mutants across the world and bring them back over to, of course, their mutant nation. And so that is the moment where we do pick up with Kitty Pryde a few days after the Marauders were able to help Fever Pitch go through his certain problem. Now, after that, we do see Kitty Pryde right now following a map. Now, when it comes to this map, it's right now taking her to a location on Krakoa. But here's the weird thing about the map. The map was founded inside a box that was made out of Mysterium. Now, Mysterium is a new kind of metal that was founded by the X-Men a couple years ago, I want to say, or possibly a year ago at this point in Marvel Comics. But either way, when it comes to this kind of metal, it's so powerful and so valuable, the X-Men are able to actually sell it for a whole lot of kinds of money. But here's the thing though, because the box of Mysterium that was given to Kitty Pryde, it was actually 2 billion years old. And on top of that, it had her name on it. And no one knows where the box actually came from. And so with that being said, you have everybody wondering what in the world is going on. Why was her name on the box? And how in the world was this box made 2 billion years ago? Who made it? And who knew to give it to Kitty Pryde? Now, she is following the map, but when she does follow the map, of course, it does lead her to a certain area on Krakoa that apparently Krakoa itself has no idea about it. But here's the thing, because when she does go to that certain area, she does run into, of course, what the map was trying to lead her to. And of course, it is Cassandra Nova, the evil sister to Charles Xavier, the evil twin sister to Charles Xavier. Now, I would sit down here and try to explain the whole origin of this character, but honestly, I don't want to, because it does get a tad bit crazy. Either way, she is a bad guy. Woo, man, she's a real bad guy. And so right now is Kitty wondering, why in the world would my map lead me to you? Someone who killed off millions of mutants just like that. Like literally, why in the world would I come to you for? And of course she says, don't worry, I have changed, but I think I know why we are meant to be here working together. But then we get this random page that kind of tell us who's going to be on the team when it comes to the Marauders, or really tells us 2 characters that are going to be on the team when it comes to the Marauders. So of course you have Tempo and you also have Psylocke. And honestly, that is it really. Like right now they're training in the Danger Island, the newer version of the Danger Room. But honestly, it's a quick page to say, hey, don't forget these 2 characters, Tempo and also Psylocke, yeah, they're on the team. Don't forget that. But then we jump back over to Cassandra Nova, but we actually pick up with Jean Grey confronting Cassandra Nova. Now this is actually very huge. And the reason why, because Jean Grey was supposedly trying to fix the mind of Cassandra Nova to make her a better person. Unfortunately, that did not work. And what I mean by that is because now Jean Grey realized what she actually did to Cassandra Nova. Because when it comes to Cassandra, she was a born killer. Like she basically killed to just kill. She just wanted to kill people left and right. But now with Jean Grey, it's now Cassandra enjoying the idea of killing. She fell in love with the idea of killing. And so right now it's Cassandra saying, you technically did fix me because now I have feelings. You gave me feelings towards the idea of killing. I now enjoy killing even more, which means I am now more capable of doing more things to different people across the world. And Jean Grey realized that she had messed up because Jean Grey thought she had fixed Cassandra, which allowed Cassandra to come to the island. But in reality, she just made things a whole lot worse for really the mutant race. But then we get another page to tell us, hey, don't forget, these 2 guys right here, yeah, they're also on the team as well. And that would be Bishop and also, of course, Aurora. Now, Bishop was on the last version of the Marauders team, and technically he is the red captain. And what I mean by that is, when it comes to the Hellfire Club, you have 3 people in charge. The Red Queen, Kitty Pryde, the White Queen, of course, Emma Frost, and the Black King, Sebastian Shaw. But you also have captains and knights under them to kind of help make sure the Hellfire Club is run perfectly. And so when it comes to Bishop, he is the red captain for Kitty Pryde's side of the Hellfire Club. But on top of that, Bishop right now is also a captain that protects Krakoa because Cyclops stepped down to form a new X-Men team that works out of New York. Either way, Bishop is still on the team. And Aurora, she left X-Factor to join this team. Now, X-Factor was canceled, I want to say 2 years prior from this book right here. So of course, it's Marvel saying, hey, let's try to use this character somewhere else because we probably are not going to relaunch a brand new X-Factor book anytime soon. But then we get another section where we actually do pick up right now with Daken, or Daken, and also his ex-lover Somnus, who are also 2 characters that are on the team as well, along with Bishop and Aurora. Now, when we do actually pick up with Daken, or Daken, you have him right now reliving a certain kind of memory where he's actually able to get revenge against Brimstone Love, a bad guy that we were actually introduced to in the Marauders Annual #1, which unfortunately I hate the name so much because he does have a cool character design, but his name sucks. Brimstone Love, like, oh my gosh, just cut off Love and call him Brimstone. Either way right now, Brimstone, that storyline, did some horrible things to Daken. And so in his dream state mind that technically was built by, of course, Somnus, he is able to get revenge against Brimstone Love over and over again. Now, once he's woken up, he is confronted by his current lover, of course, that will be Aurora and Bishop. But that is the moment you have Kitty Pryde say, hey, Marauders, listen, meet me here, meet me on our new ship because I just recruited our final member. And so you didn't have the Marauders actually arrive to their ship. Now, when they do arrive to their ship, well, that is the moment they are actually confronted by no other than Cassandra Nova. Now, of course, they're wondering, why in the world is she here right now? Like, why is she not locked away or possibly dead? And of course, she says, listen, when it comes to the Mysterium box that Kitty Pryde has, there is a huge mystery behind it because it came from the first generation of mutants. And that right there is actually very important because she says, listen, the first generation of mutants, they're still fighting to survive or fighting for us to live even right now. Even though it's been 2 billion years later, they are still fighting for us right now. And so you need my help to fully understand what they're trying to tell us and what is so important about Kitty Pryde and that box. Now, of course, you do have the rest of the Marauders team having a very hard time believing in what Cassandra Nova is actually saying. But here's the thing though, she says, listen, let me explain why I said the first generation of mutants are right now technically still fighting for us to survive, fighting to live. And the reason why, because when it comes to the first generation of mutants, they are technically right now being held hostages. That is why I'm saying they're fighting to survive, fighting for us to live, because right now they're being held against their will somewhere else. And of course, she says they're being held by the Shi'ar Empire. Now that right there is actually pretty huge. And the reason why, because when it comes to the Shi'ar Empire, they have been on and off allies to the X-Men for years in Marvel Comics. But right now, they're supposed to be friends with the X-Men. And so right now, she's telling you they're holding on to a set of prisoners that are technically the first generation of mutants. And that right there is actually very huge. And when it comes to the Marauders, we are technically a team that goes around to free mutants who are being held against their will somewhere in different areas on Earth, but now across the universe. And of course, the Shi'ar Empire are holding the first generation of mutants against their will. But then we jump over to the actual Shi'ar Empire, where we actually do pick up right now with Xandra, the daughter of Charles Xavier and Eliandra. Now, when it comes to Xandra, she is right now the current ruler of the Shi'ar Empire. But with that being said, she's technically right now getting word about the idea that the Marauders are on their way over to her to talk about a certain problem. Of course, the first generation of mutants who are right now being held as hostages. Now, with that being said though, of course, that is the moment where you actually have the different members of Imperial Guards just leave the room, because out of nowhere, somebody else walked into the room and say, you are all dismissed. Now, at first, when it comes to Xandra, she's very confused about the idea of how someone else who's not her was able to say, if you are in the Imperial Guards, I'm a higher ranking officer than you are. You are definitely dismissed. Get out of here now. And we come to find out who actually said that. And her name is Delphos the Red. Now, when it comes to Delphos the Red, she's actually part of the Kin Crimson. Now, when it comes to the Kin Crimson, apparently they are a group of soldiers in the Shi'ar Empire that's so old, they are tied to the very beginning of the Shi'ar Empire. But they are so old and so powerful, they outranked, of course, the Imperial Guards. And so right now, you have her saying, listen, the reason why I'm here right now, because technically I'm going to tell you something very important that could lead into a war between us and Arakko. And she then talks about the idea of the first spilled blood. Now, we have no idea what that actually means at first for right now, but later on in later books, we are going to learn more about that. But apparently, as soon as you have her show Xandra that small piece of information, she's kind of like, I understand what's happening right now, and it could lead to a war with my family, with my friends, and this could be a problem. But of course, she says, you are in charge. The Red Crimson are in charge of this current situation and how to deal with the Marauders at the moment. Now, once you do have the Marauders actually being able to arrive to the Shi'ar Empire, well, that is the moment where they're actually confronted by a whole bunch of resistance from the actual Empire to not let the Marauders be able to actually come into their area in space, but to hopefully land and breach the actual main temple or the main area of the Empire to talk to Xander about the idea of the first generation of mutants. Now, with that being said, though, you do have Marauders try their best to actually fight back against the forces of the Shi'ar Empire, but unfortunately their ship is not strong enough to actually fight against the forces of the Shi'ar Empire. Now, that is the moment where you do have somebody being able to actually breach the actual spaceship of the Marauders, and we kind of find out it is actually Eric the Red. Now, this is an old character in Marvel Comics, and so the next video, I'm going to try my best to explain more details about this character. But for right now, apparently, he's now the big next bad guy who is going to prevent the Marauders to actually figure out what happened to the first generation of mutants. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.